Hello and welcome to Gareth Icke Tonight. The world doesn't get any less mad, does it? No, I'd get used to that. The mass movement of awakening over the last decade or so has begun to corner the rabid animal, and while that's quite obviously a positive thing, it's also very dangerous. As the demons see their power slipping through their fingers, they're bound to lash out, and that's exactly what we're witnessing now. More war, more authoritarianism, more control over freedoms, more financial hardships, and as a result of all of the above, more human suffering. The West continues to destroy itself by shooting itself in its own foot at every turn, destroying its own energy infrastructure, destroying its ability to feed itself by covering fertile farmland with useless solar panels, all at the same time as it's angling for war with nations that have no such concerns. China, Iran and Russia, the three nations that the West is ultimately going to end up in conflict with, aren't sacrificing themselves to net zero madness. They're not allowing themselves to become dependent on other nations, leading, as it has in the UK, to having the highest energy bills on the planet, bills people simply can't afford to pay. An island nation surrounded by sea power, wind power, gas fields, sat on a mass of coal fields and onshore oil fields, has the highest energy bills on the planet. Make it make sense. These nations aren't opening their borders to all and sundry, causing the social and economic upheaval that comes with that. China, Iran and Russia aren't freezing their pensioners and sterilizing their kids on the altar of wokeism. China has over 3,000 coal-fired power stations, many of which were constructed in the last 18 months or so, while here in the UK, the Labour government has just signed off on the closure and demolition of our last remaining power station at Radcliffe-on-Soar in the East Midlands. This is the same Radcliffe power station that was fired up just 12 months ago to fill in the shortfall of our energy infrastructure and keep the country in power. So what happens next time that shortfall occurs? Well, we all freeze in the dark, I guess, which is the point. There are some that believe this is purely down to incompetence on the part of politicians, and while I can sympathise in some ways with that opinion, particularly when it comes to 10-watt light bulbs like Chairman Starmer, David Lammy and Ed Miliband, a man that permanently looks like he's just walked into a patio door, it's way more sinister than that. We're not meant to win this impending Third World War, and so our nations are purposely being destroyed to make the transition into a China-style social credit system, 15-minute smart city dystopia, all the more seamless. Because the West is meant to become like China, and we did have a brief taste of that during the COVID nonsense, and trust me, that was just the canapes. Wait till the bug-infested main course. You won't be able to fart without the state's permission, and if you don't follow the arrows on the floor of the metaphorical supermarket, there's no TV dinner and bargain hunt for you. Everything will be tied to your credit score, and once everything is digital, then the state controls everything. And if you think that's too far-fetched, you should take a look at China now, where millions of people are barred from taking flights or using public transport because their compliance score is just not quite high enough.
It's a technology prized by the government, like this program in Shenzhen to discourage jaywalking. Offenders are shamed in public and with facial recognition can be instantly fined. A high social credit number can be rewarded with discounts on bus fares. A low number can lead to a travel ban.
That's the post-war world that's waiting for us, unless we unite against it. Chairman Starmer and his gaggle of they-thems are busy getting started on the foundations of this new normal already. Independent schools have taken a battering and expect the same for homeschoolers before they eventually attempt to make both of those education systems illegal, because they want everyone in a state school where the state dictates the brainwashing the kids receive. Now, if you keep a chicken in the UK, that's now considered a flock, and you need to register it with the state. Again, more red tape and authoritarianism on the road to making keeping chickens and indeed growing your own food illegal. Because if you want people dependent on the state for everything and therefore compliant, then you can't have them being self-reliant. Same reason independent businesses took an absolute hammering during COVID while all the big multinational corporations made record profits. They don't want us independent and therefore free to make our own choices. They use the fake bogeyman of COVID to terrify the population into giving their power and freedoms away. And they're using the fake bogeyman of human-caused climate change to do the exact same thing now. They'll also use weather modification and cloud seeding to fool the eternally gullible into believing the world is ending, so they'll accept whatever solution the demons implement. They'll use the wars that they're currently manipulating into existence as an excuse for another power grab under the label of wartime emergency powers. The Labour government are already trying to deal with the problem of the pensioners, because they've lived long enough, you see, to know authoritarian overreach when they see it. So now we freeze them to death. And as soon as the soon-to-be introduced assisted dying bill comes in, that'll see off another giant swathe of them. Because while the assisted dying bill is being touted as a kind and dignified end for those that are terminally ill and dying in excruciating pain, that's not where it will go. That's just what they're saying to get their jackboots in the door. It will go the same way as Canada and Holland, where the qualification for state-assisted death now expands to non-terminal illnesses, to mental health problems and income bracket. And then imagine, if you will, when the state has the power to euthanize people based on their mental health status, what kind of status will they apply to those that call out the state, to those that reject the new normal? Those that dabble in conspiracy facts will become persona non grata, and the compliant NPC masses will probably cheer on our demise because the state media bobbleheads will tell them, I don't know, we're domestic terrorists or granny killers, the irony. Or they'll call us climate change deniers whose dangerous rhetoric puts the world at risk. It all sounds rather far-fetched, doesn't it? Well, at least it did. But this will be the final lash out of the cornered beast as it tries ever more desperately to curtail the opening of eyes. Now, while I've mentioned Labour, because they're the ones with their names above the door right now, everything I've said applies to all of the others as well. Yes, including the fake saviour in the red baseball cap. Politics is like a football training session. The players may put on different coloured bibs to differentiate themselves from one another, and they may appear to be opposed as they compete for the ball. But when it comes to game time, when the stadium is full and the floodlights are shining brightly, they are all ultimately members of the same team. Our final guest this evening joins us from the United States. I would say that David Weiss joins us from the other side of the globe, but given David is better known as Flat Earth Dave, I'm not sure that kind of introduction is going to fly. David left behind a successful business career to dedicate his life to the unveiling of what he knows to be the true nature of the world. As the host of the Flat Earth podcast and creator of the Flat Earth Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock app, David has become one of the most vocal and influential advocates for flat earth theory. David, great to have you on, mate. What first got you interested in flat earth theory? Was it something that you kind of, you always maybe suspected as a kid, or was it one of those like late night rabbit hole, deep dive, wow moments?
I've been into, alternative reality, basically. I've been into reality versus the nonsense that they feed us in all walks of life. And, I was a follower of your father's for a while, for a long time still. And I was doing a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, looking into all of the deceptions, the New York, 9/11, Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, everything. And then people started sending me flat earth stuff in 2014, 2013. And I just ignored it. I deleted, banned for life. That's too stupid. And then I finally went in to look, and I went in with a closed mind just to disprove flat earth, get rid of these idiots. And, the first thing when I heard about flat earth, I said, oh, this is just a stupid conspiracy to to make all the other stuff that we're really researching look like nonsense. It's to make it just look bad. And that's what my first assumption. But then when I looked and I tried to debunk it, here I am 10 years later, Flat Earth Dave, talking to you from across the pond, not around the world, across the pond, because we live in a giant pond.
What was the one thing, like the almost gotcha thing that you were trying to debunk? Was there one particular thing that you just went, oh man?
When people hear flat Earth, they go, well, what about ships over the horizon, seasons, sunsets, all of this stuff. And I live in the same town my entire life, and on the water, and I'm a water guy. And I was like, okay, the boat's over the horizon. Let me look. And right at that time, the Nikon came out with their P900 super zoom camera that people were using. And so I went and bought one, went down to the beach. I had a perfectly calm, clear, cool day. And I was able to zoom in on a buoy over 10 miles away. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot when you're like, well, the Earth is so big. How would curvature matter? At 10 miles away, there's 66 feet of curvature, according to globe math, right? Not only could I see the buoy, I could see the water beyond the buoy. Now, that's impossible on a globe Earth, right? So then I immediately just said, okay, the curvature formula is wrong. And I literally did some research. I went to the flat Earth debunking sites. They're like, oh, no, you don't count the curve as that. It's a hump, and you have to split the curvature between the object that you're viewing and your viewing spot. Okay, that's stupid. But, okay, instead of 66 feet, there's 33 feet of curvature. I could still see a 10-foot tall buoy. How is that possible? It should be behind the ball, right? When I say, behind the ball, like you can't see my mouth right now because it's behind a physical curve. Zooming in isn't going to help because there's a physical curve. The problem is our horizon, our horizontal eye zone is optical. And it depends on the conditions, the atmospheric conditions, the surface conditions, on how far you can see. So that's the one that got me.
What did that do for you, though? Do you know if you've been researching stuff, looking into stuff, and then you go in with like you said, you went in with a closed mind of like, right, okay, let's go and debunk this, deal with this, and then, we'll go and, get some chicken wings or something. And all of a sudden that must have thrown out your belief system, like across everything, no?
This is the problem. There's two things in the world that all the countries agree upon, that nobody can independently explore the North Pole or Antarctica, and everyone has to get the jab for the COVIDs, right? They all agree on that, right? We can blow up Gaza and kill families, but we can't disturb the penguins in Antarctica. There's no independent, and those are two places where independent exploration would show us that we don't live on a globe, right? But they're off limits. All the countries agree. Everyone signed the Antarctic Treaty. And, it's just something that people don't even really want to discuss. So
it is a movement that seems to be growing, though, Dave. I must admit, from me, just observing. I'm not massive into it. It's not something I've gone into massively. But I'm literally one of those people that I'm open to everything, absolutely everything. I'm not arrogant enough to think I know it all. And I've been lied to so often by the powers that be from the minute, basically, that I plopped out into this world that I don't believe anything they say. So why do you think that the so-called powers that be are trying to keep this from us? Why is it such a major thing that we don't know?
As far as it growing, it's absolutely growing, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. This is a heat map of the people that have my app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. You can find it at my website, flatearthdave.com. And it is growing. And the thing is, once you discover Flat Earth, or I instead of calling it Flat Earth, I like to call it rejecting of the globe, because that is one thing that we all agree on. It's definitely impossible to be a globe. So, why would they hide this? And that's the greatest question of all. I have there's a frequently asked questions page on the app, and there's one that's called Why the Lie? And all those videos are being hidden from you, but I'll give you the gist of it right here. Because if you live on a globe, you live in a limited world. You're a speck of dust flying through an infinite space vacuum that appeared when nothing exploded and became everything. A ridiculous story. And you are insignificant in a diluted created universe or a randomly created universe. When the truth is, we are at the center of creation. We are important. Now, if you flat earthers, you just want to feel important. Well, that's not why we came to Flat Earth, but hey, it did point out that we are important. We are at the center of creation. So it's hard to control a population that can see the truth of their creation. And when you see Flat Earth, you have no choice but to understand that we are in a created space and that we are in a created place and we are part of this creation. On a ball, we're running out of resources. We're overpopulated, which is nonsense, right? The whole population hoax. That's another thing. Asteroids could take us out. Nuclear bombs are going to blow us up. All of that stuff is false. All of it's false. And so if they keep you in fear, lonely, scared, you're giving out what's called loose energy. And that's what they feed off. This is an energetic war. And the way they win that war is they get people to believe that that's not even something that could possibly be true. So once you see this, you never put it down. Once you can see it, the problem is everyone's been so well programmed where they just immediately reject without investigation. You know, that's the height of ignorance, rejection without investigation.
100%. And there's plenty of that around. When you say created, Dave, do you mean, created by, an all-powerful, say, like deity, a religious figure, perhaps, or are you looking at, the simulation? Because I know there's lots of growth in that movement of belief as well.
And I don't like the word simulation, but I agree with the concept of it. I believe we live in a physical simulation. I believe that we are eternal souls. This is me speaking. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I believe that our souls are in the stars. So the stars that we see in the sky are angelic. They're perfect, which is why they never move. We're orbiting and twisting and spiraling through space, traveling to, never to return to where we were before. All the other stars are binary, trinary. They're all spinning around, but never in history have two stars changed position due to parallax. When things move in the distance, they move at different speeds. Never have two stars ever crossed their path. That's never happened. Now, the problem with explaining that is most NPCs, most people that are just lost in the heliocentric matrix don't even know what I just said. They can't fathom. Like, well, they're so far away. And I say, people say, I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have a degree. A degree is your ability to memorize and regurgitate. If I wrote the book of bullshit, right, if I'm allowed to say that, and I gave it to you and you read it, and then I tested you on it, and you got 100 on the test, you can now go teach the book of bullshit to everybody else. Doesn't make it real, just means that you got a degree in bullshit, okay? And that's true. So I always tell people, you're not stupid, it's stupid. That's why you can't figure it out.
Did you think then that it would kind of, if this knowledge, if you're absolutely right, and this knowledge is unearthed, and it's then it just grows and grows and grows as movements do, snowballs, and suddenly it becomes, the overwhelming majority of people on the earth believe this. Do you think it would change the way, we see ourselves, as you've said, and that would almost change the power structure a little bit? We would actually start to believe in ourselves a bit more.
100%. The thing is, all those blue dots I showed you, they're all 99.9% of them, are unvaccinated free thinkers that have unplugged from the matrix, that have taken back their true power. The truth is, we have free will. They can't take it from us unless we sign off and agree, right? Everything that we do that's, we're complying, it's in our imagination. The governments have no power other than what's in our imagination. We imagine them having power. So if let's say, Dave, Gareth, this video goes viral and the whole world watches it and they're like, oh my God, the earth is flat. All government, not a little power change, all governments dissolve. Everything changes. Everything changes. So, with all of the wars and the storms that are happening and the protests and the people's rights being taken away and child trafficking and all of this stuff's going on, they're like, Dave, why are you talking about flat earth? Because this is the foundation of the lies. If you don't know where you're standing, if you feel that you're spinning on a speck in an infinite, godless or distant, diluted God universe, then you are going to be able to be tricked and fooled into doing anything. If you don't know your true position in this world, your true power, your thoughts create your reality. Look at your life. It's your fault. Everything in your life is your fault because of the way that you think, the things that you do, and the things that you attract. Your thoughts are magnetic. They have power. And they don't want you to believe any of that.
No. And what you're willing to accept as well. I remember being in Malta with my wife years and years ago, and there was this graffiti, which is very little graffiti in Malta because it's like clean as you like. And it just said, you get the government you deserve. And it was dead random. It was just like on the wall somewhere. And I looked at it, it's like, you get the government you deserve. It's like, that's so right in the sense of like what you're willing to put up with, what you will accept, and also what you'll believe in. Because like you've said there, about, they've only got power over you if you believe they have that power. And I guess I'm thinking now cash, it's a bit of paper. It's not worth anything. You just give it value. And I guess same with digital money, it's just numbers on a screen, but you give it value and therefore you believe it into existence, I guess.
Yeah, so actually, there's a lot of controversy with cryptocurrency, and there's people that don't understand what cryptocurrency is. Basically, cryptocurrency is fake internet money, but so is all of the other currencies. It's all fake internet money, but our fake internet money is better because it can't be inflated. Like Bitcoin, for example. There's 21 million Bitcoin. There can never be more, right? You can't just start printing more like they do here in the United States. The Federal Reserve, that's all another thing. That's the thing that woke me up in the first place, learning what money was. And so there are better ways, there are ways to disconnect. A lot of flat earthers are starting to use crypto and getting out of the banking system, which is control. If you live on their ball field, you have to play by their ball rules, and then they control you with their money. People say, "Oh, why are they lying? Are they lying? It's about money?" No, money is how they control us. They don't need money; they create money. They go, they got money. They can do whatever they want, right? So they control us with these fake Federal Reserve notes here in the United States.
Yeah, well, it's not about them having more money; it's about you having less. And that's how they control you, because they take away your freedom of choice. 100%.
Exactly.
Do you think that it will ever, I say ever, it's an infinite thing. So in our lifetime then, the flat earth will actually, that dam will break and it will come out within, say, the next 20, 30, 40 years?
I think it's going to come out way, way sooner than that. We're literally one tweet away from going viral. You just need somebody with some guts that has a big social media following to tweet something out. Here's the thing. All my interviews, I've done over 1,300 interviews since 2021. Wow. And I go through all proofs. I have all sorts of stuff that I can show you here. We only have 20 minutes. You said maybe we can do another show on your other channel. And I can go over stuff. But on my website, flatearthdave.com, there's an interviews button. Click that, check out some of those interviews and start looking, because there's a big deception coming on. They're really pushing hard now to discredit flat earth. But every time they do that, they literally promote flat earth, because the globe is so stupid. Once you understand it, flat earthers understand the globe model 100 times better than the people that defend it. Because if you understood the globe model, you would immediately reject it. Now, when I say flat, we live on a topographical, stationary, non-rotating plane of existence. What is that? We can talk about that all day, but it's not a ball floating through space in a space vacuum. That is scientifically impossible. We live in an enclosed system. How enclosed? Is it just our pond, or are there other ponds, right? Are there more lands beyond Antarctica? These are all great questions. And there's tons of videos on the app that'll show you the stuff that Google will not show you. If you Google flat earth, you're going to get propaganda, just nonsense by these propped up disinformation sites with these guys with, English and British Australian accents. They're talking, they make themselves sound really smart, but they're just pushing nonsense. You have to use your own mind. I always tell people, don't believe anything I show you. Go verify it yourself. But I'm going to show you what you've never even imagined. People think the flat earth is a disc floating in space, right? We're a disc floating in space. They're like, oh, we the only pancake, and we have other planets out here. That's two false models. That's false. That's like voting, Republican or Democrat in the United States. They're both nonsense. They're both idiocracy. When you understand what the flat earth is, then it starts to make sense, And the whole UFO crowd, or people like aliens from outer space. No, the outer space, which is just land beyond Antarctica. And there's a lot of evidence that is the case. But until we can actually go there and freely explore, that's a tougher one to prove.
I've always questioned that, with the whole Antarctica thing. I've always found that odd. The fact that they are completely off limits. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to everything. I'm an Icke, so you kind of have to be fair. and I've always looked at it in different ways. I'm open to everything. I was open to the Middle Earth of like Lord of the Rings and stuff, and that's why they didn't want you to go there. And was there a Middle Earth? I'm open to anything, and I do find, I must admit, the more the establishment attacks something, the more I want to look into it.
What if this is Lord of the Rings right here, right? So here we live here, South America, UK, right? And then out here beyond this ring which is Antarctica, there's more land. If somebody lived on the more land in this outer area, you might call them an extraterrestrial from the extra terra in the outer space, right here on Earth.
Yeah, and maybe they're the rings that Tolkien was referring to. Mate,
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Question everything, 100%. You're absolutely right, Dave. We could talk for a hell of a lot longer, and I know we don't have long today, so it would be great to have you back on the channel on another show where we're an hour and a half can talk properly. I would love that. But just finally, while I've got you here, I've looked at your website, flatearthdave.com, and I would urge our viewers to go and check that out. Like you said, all those long form interviews that you've got, but you don't solely focus on flat Earth. You dive into loads of different topics. And one that caught my attention, because it's something I've been thinking about a hell of a lot, especially given the world we're in at the moment, is the idea that nuclear weapons don't exist. Now, I've seen people talking about it a little bit here and there, and I saw that on your website, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's something I've been kind of trying to get my head around too.
Again, you have to remember, nuclear bombs, what we're told about nuclear bombs, they have a half-life, they just disintegrate everything. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which everyone will throw those two up, what about that? 3 days later, the trains were running, the sandwich shops were open, they were selling flowers on the street, and people were back to work 3 days later. Anybody except one person, I forget the guy's name, that wrote an article or took a picture and published it, they were put in jail. So totally controlling the information. Plants, people, and animals have always thrived there. They do today. They have less cancer than America has. So where is this nuclear bomb? And there's video of them stacking TNT at ground zero in both locations prior to the bombs. So it was just a gigantic TNT bomb and a propaganda campaign because people watch the news. I say, if you watch the news, you're probably going to get cancer, right? But don't watch the news. But if you that's a fact. It's a fact, Gareth. And if that's just my opinion, by the way. So if you hear somebody say, Russia or China or South Korea, North Korea, they got a nuclear bomb. But laugh, right? Because when you hear nuclear bomb and you believe in nuclear bombs, every cell in your body becomes at dis-ease, right? It becomes stressed out on some level. Now your mind is like, okay, hopefully that won't happen. But once you understand that that they're not real, then every cell in your body laughs when you hear it and you see a clown nose on the person that just said it. So it literally frees you from this fear, and that fear creates that loose energy that they're feeding off of. It disconnects you. Nuclear bombs, overpopulation, meteors coming in and hitting the Earth, asteroids, whatever. These are all things that affect people on a very, very deep level. So, once you dispel those, and on my website, there's a big banner down at the bottom. You can't miss it. You saw it. There's a link to a podcast called Crow with 2 R's, Crow 777 Radio. And he's did several episodes going through all of the details, not theorizing, going through all of the details. And once you hear them, you can't unhear them. Once you realize, wow, nuclear bombs make absolutely no sense, and then it's not real, then you can move on with your life. Remove the fear, unplug from the ball matrix, accept your position in the center of creation, connect to the creator. However, that's your own personal journey. I never tell anyone what they need to do. And life is amazing. Life is amazing. As Jeff Berwick says, we're in this video game and it is really exciting game. It's an amazing game. It's a physical reality that we're in, a physical simulation, I call it.
You're absolutely right in terms of the fear, because when I was a kid, it was acid rain and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you had that over in the United States. Here, mate, it was every time it rained, you were going to melt. And then obviously, the generation before me, it was the Cold War. Now, with everything that's going on in the Middle East, fear. Climate change is the big one. They're pushing that particularly on kids that are just terrified that the world's just going to end. And that will affect them for life, that fear.
It's all about dividing and conquering. They divide us up by countries. That division is fake, right? There are some rogue things going on, but Russia, China, everything, they're all in this together. It's hard to believe. It's like, wait a minute, what? And then, people are like all pro-Trump and everything. Like Trump is 1,000 times better than Kamala, but Trump is fake. They're all fake. They're all actors. And, and there's so many truthers out there that have not been able to see through the stupid events that have happened with Trump recently. It's kind of disheartening, but, what I notice is if I focus on the positive things that are happening, if I focus on my ability to bring people to the truth of flat Earth, once you see flat Earth, like I would be waking people up to all these other conspiracies. It was really hard to, they'd have a hard time. And if they wake up to it, they go back to sleep. But when you wake someone up to flat Earth, all of a sudden they can see everything else and they never go back to sleep. That's why I quit my job. I quit my own company. I have 2 partners, and I decided I need to do this. This is an important message. This is important for the future of our world. We're not going to have a future if we don't literally wake up and unplug ourselves from this fear matrix that we're living in, this matrix of lack and disconnection from God.
Yeah, I must admit the truth movement, the alternative media kind of getting sucked again into right-left politics is quite frustrating, and particularly the Trump train. I must admit, I've looked at, but I'm the same as you, mate. I was getting frustrated by it, and then I'm like, well, I can't change it. Like, it is what it is. That you're just going to have to be disappointed again, and that is just that's their journey, I guess. But there you go. But go ahead. Go on, sorry, Dave.
No, I was going to say, I choose not to participate. I choose not to give that energy. Like I was at a little concert last night, and they had people there who registered to vote, and I looked at them and I said, no way. They're like, what? And I just walked away. It's like, unfortunately, you're giving energy to this system. Hey, I voted for this person, therefore I'm giving them permission to rule over me. Nobody rules over me. God rules over me. Right? Government's trying to get above us, which they've already done in most people's minds, not mine, and they're trying to get over God. And it doesn't work that way.
No. I'm not standing under any government. I don't understand that sort of mindset to live on your knees. It's not living, it's existing, and even that's pretty pointless, really.
I've heard you say you'd rather live standing and fighting than on my knees,
I'd rather,
for a minute or whatever.
Yeah, I'd rather die on my feet than survive on my knees. 100%, mate. Absolutely.
There you go.
100%.
That's it. Absolutely. And that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I've never worked harder in my life. I work all the time, but I love it because I'd be doing this in my spare time if I had a regular slave job. So I'm happy to wake people up. I get so many messages from so many people saying, I thought you were crazy. I finally looked. And here, if you think this is crazy, and I would assume a lot of your audience is open to this concept, go to my website. You can get the app. The app's $3, and it's fantastic. It just gives you all the information. But if you scroll down until you see a big picture of me, it says Crash Course. And there's a list of videos there, documentaries. Watch them in order. Just watch the top 3 or 4 or 5, and you're in. There's no way. Once you watch those, it's scientifically impossible to remain a globalist.
Magic. David, thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to see you back on the channel in a longer format, because we can go into so much more stuff. I really appreciate your time, mate. It's been great.
FlatEarthDave.com. That's where you can find all my stuff. My socials. Follow me on X and everywhere else.
Top man. Cheers, Dave. Thanks, mate.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.